Welcome, everyone, to episode 332 of Just Joshing. I am your host, Joshua Pentalaresco. I write stuff in podcast 2. Today, part 2 of my conversation with Tim Reynolds is live. I got a lot to talk about in terms of my current situation, but I think I'm going to save that to the end. So we'll just go to the conversation, and then, actually, I will say one thing. I easily have enough conversation. I love talking with Tim for one simple thing. Me and him just shoot the shit for hours, man. It's great. I've never been... Tim is one of the sweetest men I've ever met. He may not believe it. I'm sure there were different points in his life he was a different person, but he's legitimately one of the sweetest dudes I've ever met. And I always enjoy being around him. And, buddy, I do miss you. I really do. All right, let's just get to our conversation, shall we?
This episode of Just Joshing is sponsored by Indie Imprint. Indie Imprint supports creators by creators. Whether you are writing a book or creating a video game, Indie Imprint works with its clients to produce, edit, and present their projects to the world. For more information, check out their website at www.indieimprint.com.
Did it not pause?
Yeah.
It also didn't delete it.
No, there's. Well, we're back. We had a little break thanks to the truck. I'm just bringing this up to speed, and he's about to disappear, and so is a Jeep apparently.
Yeah. So they're looking under the hood. So obviously the neighbor's Jeep is broken.
Yeah, fair enough. So what we were talking about, and we talked about a little bit of this off the air, was the importance of we were talking about this, the importance of hardships and people that had the hard, made your life hard. Yeah, it definitely at the time, it definitely doesn't seem like a blessing, and definitely.
Oh no, definitely not.
And I'm sure there are definitely situations where those hardships in particular, people would look at you and go, "No, man, they were just assholes," and that's a legit interpretation of what happened too.
Sure, but it's your reaction. Well, was it? And it's a cliche too. We cannot change what happens to us. We can't control what happens to us. We can only control how we react to it.
Yep.
And that is essentially what I think the Tony Robbins and a few of the others have talked about. And I realize now that whatever emotions I have about the failed 13-year marriage is one of them is gratitude, because my writing would not be what it is now without what I had gone through there. In discovering, when life is beige and easy and things come your way easily for whatever reason, you don't tend to challenge yourself artistically.
No.
It's not until you trip, whether somebody else stuck out their foot or you tripped over your own shoelaces, figuratively speaking, or you've gone down to a dark place. Sorry, I'm just watching the cat here, making sure he doesn't knock over your ginger ale. Okay, there he goes.
Yes.
My brain, like a complete brain fart, thanks to the cat. I have no idea what
Okay, so you're going to talk about 13 years of marriage.
Oh yeah, well just that I wouldn't be writing the depth I am, and until you run into darkness, you can't write about it. It's like you can research some things and you can pick things up. Like you don't have to be a parent to write about parenthood, because hopefully somewhere along the line you were a child, so you got to observe parenthood at least from the other side. You don't have to be in the relationship of a lifetime, madly in love, to understand what that is about. If you've been, you've seen it around you, you've got friends who have. But if you've never been loved, never been trusted, and I'm just using those as examples, not anything specific to me, then you can't write about that. It's like, if you've never been into a police station, how are you going to write about police stations? And you've never watched it on television or whatever. You have to have some basis you have to have some ground zero to work from. And some of the best writing is from writers who have been in dark places. And you look at some of the Pulitzer winners and the Giller and the Booker Prize winners. and you find out the history of the writers and what they've gone through, and you go, holy smokes.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's nature. That's the nature of what we do. I mean, I always feel like when we're writing, doesn't matter what kind of story we're writing about, we're ultimately telling our stories, and the depth of our characters, the depth of the things that concern us,
right,
is all based on our experiences, all of it. So, my first novel coming out soon deals with all things the comfort zone. Why? Right. Because I understand, like, I know what it's like to be constantly in a discomfort zone all the time. Right. So I get what that feels like and understand that. So that matters to me. The second book is going to be about something else that matters to me, and then the third book is going to be about something else that matters to me.
Right.
Right. And pardon me, as I get to these places, I know it'll evolve, because the more I explore, the more I discover. But if it wasn't for all the dark places that I have seen myself,
right,
I wouldn't be able to write these stories.
No, of course not. And that's to get back to it. That's why I'm grateful for the good, the bad, and the ugly that I went through in that relationship. Is that I can now put the good, the bad, and the ugly into my writing, and I certainly hope that my ex can take her side of that relationship and put it into something creative that will help her. She's always wanted to write, so hopefully she, whatever she does, I hope she finds some peace with it, and that she can find something positive out of whatever she feels was negative. Well, but anyway, if we get any deeper into that, it's going to sound like I'm trashing her, and I certainly don't want to do that.
I was going to ask one thing and then just in general, do you still consider it a failure, or just or an experience? The reason I asked that is I interviewed a gentleman who had just gone through a 10-year marriage. Right. Right. There's definitely a mourning process. To it, because it is like something died, but I mean, I don't know if failure is necessarily the way to look at it either. Right? It didn't work out the way maybe you guys hoped it would, right? But you still had 13 years, which is longer than some people get.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
No, I don't see it. In a sense, I honestly don't know. I couldn't tell you whether I see it as failure or not.
It's fair. I just figured I'd ask that.
Yeah, no, that's a question that I can't, because the whole situation is much more complicated and ongoing.
Yes.
So
when it's over, maybe it'd be easier to answer that question.
Yes, at least even just to myself.
Yeah.
But I mean, all I think is necessary. I think a lot of people too, when relationships break up, short ones, long ones, they cling too much to the past.
Oh yeah.
They start. How many people do? I know one. I have a coworker, for example, who is in year 7 or 8 of a divorce.
Oh God.
Not the relationship. The divorce has been ongoing. They've been fighting for 7 years.
Your God.
Because he's invested in 3 houses, and she wants the one that he's living in, and he doesn't want to give it up, so he's fighting. So here are 2 people that, like, she could just as easily say, fine, sell the other 2 and give me X amount of money and I will go buy. Or he could say, fine, you can have this house, but I'm keeping A, B, and C. Whatever it may be. And they could have solved it probably very quickly. But because of their anger levels and their they don't want to appear to have failed or to have lost. Actually, lost. Go back to what we were saying earlier about loss. But they don't want to look like they've lost a fight or a battle. And I think too many people put too much weight on that. I was a kid. When I was a little kid, and I was picked on quite a bit. I wasn't beaten up a lot, but I was certainly picked on and bullied. Our biggest school bully was a girl. But so I got used to the idea of not winning. And, as a competitive athlete, I wasn't great, but I competed and, I lost. rarely got anywhere in the tournaments that I competed in. So I ended up becoming an official. But I don't see, so many people put so much weight on, we won, we lost, I lost, you won, and I just don't get it. They're toxifying their own life by being so concerned about the label of won or lost. It's like being nominated for an award. I mean, it's great to it's great to be nominated. It's great to win. You know that feeling.
Yes.
But it can help. It helps define you in a positive way, but losing should not define you in a negative way. And it shouldn't actually define you in a positive way. It should simply add to your sparkle.
That's right. I see your muse at that little
it works. And when I'm communicating with you, it's something I know you will understand because you invented it.
Yes. Actually, do you know what I learned when I won the award last year? When I won last year, I didn't expect I didn't expect to be nominated. Didn't expect to win.
Right.
This year, I did. I won't lie. I did kind of expect to be nominated again this year. I'm not.
But once you're in for something, and if you're consistently doing it, and it's unique, and what you do is good and unique, and now noticed, that yes, you will appear on
the ballot again.
Exactly. You'd have to really suck to not be on the ballot.
Yeah.
You see that in many of the categories for many awards.
Absolutely. So here's the thing. I don't know if I'm going to win this year. I'm not, but for me, this is what I learned last year.
Right.
I learned a long time ago that an award in and of itself, and this is way back in elementary school, doesn't mean anything. It's what you do with it, right? I think I did. I took the Aurora and I turned it into some pretty good opportunities for myself last year.
Yes.
And that's what it was intended for, right? And I'm grateful that I got the opportunities I did.
Yeah.
What I learned about that is, for me, most of us are used to losing, right? Going back to not all of us really understand what it actually means to win, to really win, not climb over somebody to win, but actually just on your merits, stand tall, right?
And be acknowledged.
Exactly, stand tall and acknowledged. So what I learned from that last year was, okay, what did I do? I asked myself two questions. What did I do to get there?
Yeah.
And what could I do not to come back? Those are the only two questions. This is what, if you got the best lesson I can give everybody on winning is this. Whenever you win something, figure out how you got there and figure out what you could do to get in your way of getting back there next year. Do one, don't do the other. Sounds incredibly fucking simple, but it's the truth, right?
Yeah.
That's all.
Exactly. Well, this is get out of your head and into your life. Unfuck yourself.
Yeah.
Gary John Bishop, and there's another one over there by Gary as well. It's called Stop Doing That Shit.
No, it's true. It's a really good way.
We are our own biggest obstacles.
Yeah. So what I'm going to say is, like, when you talk about the winning losing thing.
Yeah.
Right. We're going back to that. Like, what we want to win is that validity of here I am. But the best way to actually win those battles, right, in a relationship, what do you actually want? Like, to your couple, you're talking about 7 years. Do you really want to still be together in any way, shape, or form? Compromise.
They've gone on, and I think one of them is even remarried.
Yeah.
But they're still fighting over it.
Well, I mean, but that means they still have a relationship. I mean, at this
exactly. That's it. The smartest people I've ever heard in a divorce are the ones who were able to say, I want nothing, or here it is, let's walk away. One of my oldest friends was only married a year, and he went to the local Grandin Toy business supply shop and picked up the do-it-yourself divorce kit. And back when you could do it easily in Ontario. And the two of them just sat down and says, well, we have no assets, blah, blah, blah. They're both college students still. And they wrote it out, signed it, took it to the Justice of the Peace or whoever.
Yeah.
Had it done. And, said and done. And others that... I wish ours is ongoing, but only because we both still own the house, which we're working on. but others who are, fighting over this and fighting over that. And I don't know how many friends I've got where, well, one went through a long, terrible year of a divorce. Another one has an ex that's being a complete SOB, running them down, saying negative things to the kids and all of that stuff. And they're still trying to beat up the person who has said, I don't want you around anymore. Unfortunately, having kids in a relationship that changes the game completely.
Yeah.
If we stick to just divorce between people without kids,
and
then you're just looking at your property. Then
kids is a different dimension. Exactly. It is a very different dimension.
But if you're still fighting over a house 7 years later, then and you're not fighting over the kids anymore, then it just shake my head. It says, "What are you doing?" He's like, there's a couple of times I've talked to him. It's the one time he went on and on and on about this. I said, all right, that's a marriage that was over 7 years ago. And like you just said, he's still in a relationship with her. It's not a positive or healthy one.
No.
It's downright toxic because it's adding to their stresses. It's probably aging him early.
Yes.
I think he's coming up on 60.
Well,
he's in his 50s. He's in his 50s. And
will he see 65 at this point?
It's wearing him out.
Yeah.
What battles do you want to fight? And that's one thing that I've come to realign my life. Instead of running around trying to make other people happy, is trying to make myself happy.
Mm-hmm.
And Tony Robbins said it best when he was talking about Robin Williams. Now, Robin Williams, putting aside the mental health issues and then the physical health issues that gave him the push to make the final decision that he did, is that Robin spent most of his life making everybody else happy. And we saw you see clips of this on the special. But he wasn't happy himself, and that you have to have some happiness. And I decided that I quit stand-up comedy because it wasn't making me happy, and I'm not out there, running around I'm not on Tinder or Tender or whatever they call those things. One of them's straight and one of them's gay, I think. I don't. And I've got coworkers who say, "Why, you need to find a woman." And I says, "Well, in your culture and in their culture, to not be married is to be incomplete." And I accept that that's how they live their lives. But no, I have 3 animals and I have my writing. And I'm at the point where I realized that I had spent 50 years not doing my writing to the extent that I should have. Yeah. And if I can't control my happiness and aim towards it myself, then nobody else outside me is going to do it.
No.
And what makes me happiest is moving forward and writing a little better every time, learning a little more with every set of notes I get, with every genre I try. The romantic comedy, I'm actually, as frustrating as it is, I'm having fun writing it.
It's growing you.
Because it was written. I'm writing it as a challenge because a friend, I was telling an agent friend that I wanted to. I was thinking of putting together a book of my dating experience and how to not date. And she said, "Why don't you just turn that into a rom-com?" So in the story, when it comes out, all the little stories that people talk about their dates, or the dates most of those people have been on, are all real dates I was on. One of them, and it talks about back when I dated, not online because the internet didn't exist back in the 80s, where you answered a personal ad. Well, we had a cheap little advertising full penny saver that came around door to door. And I lived in a town that was actually 40-minute drive from the town that was putting this out. And they had a personal section. And I answered an ad, or actually I placed an ad in that. And eventually I answered an ad as well. And I had some dates, but the one I answered, I had just gotten my American Sign Language level 1 and was very cocky and thought I was much better at sign language than I was. So when a young lady asked, she was looking for somebody who spoke American Sign Language. I answered the ad, and then I drove down to the town, and we had a date or two. Went to see a movie. We saw Chucky 2, because a horror movie doesn't require a lot of interpretation.
No.
Um, although it was cool when being able to sign to her before the movie started as to what was happening on the screen. But eventually, when she broke up with me, it's back when they were using and I always get the initials wrong, the TDDY system, which is there's an operator involved, and the hearing impaired individual types into a little keyboard, and that message goes to the operator, and the operator then reads it to the hearing individual, which was me. So then I would, like, she would type in, "Hi, how are you?" And he would, the operator, she would go, "Hi, how are you? How's your day?" And I would type that, and she'd go, "End." And I'd type in, "Oh, my day was good. I was having a lot of, had a fun day at work, just sitting back, relaxing now with a beer, end." And the operator would then type that message to the hearing impaired, to the girlfriend. Well, the day she called I called to see if she wanted to meet for coffee, and she decided to break up with me. That day was an operator named Michael. So when she typed in "Tim, I think you're a really terrific guy, but I don't think we should see each other anymore," Michael got to read that to me. So actually what I heard was Michael, the male voice, going, "Tim, I think you're a really nice guy, but I don't think we should see each other." So that story is obviously in my rom-com.
Of course it is, because it's fantastic.
But while I was writing a party where the neighborhood, a bunch of people from the neighborhood get together, and they do every 2 weeks they do a potluck. And I brought in an older lady who was supposed to be based on one of my neighbors, and I realized, no, my hero's 35. This lady's 60. So in fact, I've written in this lady as a friend of mine, or an old girlfriend of mine, and she brings along a friend who is me now. So I actually am in the story at 2 different stages. And he freezes the whole group, shuts them down with a story about how he got kicked out of a brothel. And that actually happened to me.
Yes.
So little stories like that, I'm having fun writing it. But the hard part is being honest with love, like not creating a superficial love.
Yeah.
Rom-coms, people maybe, oh yeah, it'll be light and it'll be fluffy. I don't want to do that, which is probably why they will eventually reject it and say, no, we need this to be fluffier. But yeah, it's an interesting genre, but that's where I'm trying to put all the positive stuff, but there's also negative.
Oh yeah.
Because your characters, if they don't meet obstacles in any story, if there aren't any obstacles, there's no story. Because your character has to have something to get around. And it doesn't have to be big. You could tie their shoelaces together for an entire novel. It might just be that. But if they've got Parkinson's or one hand, whatever it may be, a disability of some sort that doesn't allow them to undo their shoelaces, that can be a serious issue.
Yes.
Or if their shoelaces are tied on the other side of a pole and they can't reach it and the water level's rising, whatever it may be, it can be life-threatening, or it could just simply a frustration.
Yeah.
Like the one guy who can't keep his laces tied up and he keeps tripping over them and embarrassing himself in front of girls.
Yeah.
I think I actually do that in this. He stands up and trips and falls over a chair, and things go flying. But that's the com and rom-com is there needs to be some physical comedy.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're having a blast with it.
Yes.
Yes.
And I will probably never, ever, ever write another one again. Unless, of course, this suddenly hits big. But I've actually got a book on the way now called, I don't remember the title. Oh, no, I do. No, but you'll understand why in a minute. It's about Nora Roberts.
Okay.
And how her 3 screenplays changed the modern romantic comedy. And I try to think of which ones they were. When Harry Met Sally, Sleepless in Seattle, and there was one other I can't remember. But this book is about what those 3 books did. And I do remember the title now. It's I'll Have What She's Having, which is the line from Sleepless in Seattle.
Yes.
No, not Sleepless in Seattle. When Harry Met Sally.
Yes.
That was Rob Reiner's mother, actually, the director. It's his mother who says that line. And after Sally, Meg Ryan has her fake orgasm in the restaurant.
Yeah. What she's having, yeah.
Yeah, I'll have what she's having. But yes, that's but I've got that book coming, so I can understand more for the next draft.
You never know. You might be like, that might just not be the book.
I know. That's the thing, is I don't know which. My goal is to have something I write become popular enough that somebody comes along and says, I want more of that. So that's why I've got psychological thriller, I've got cozy mystery, I've got rom-com, I have science fiction, and my sci-fi is designed to be part of a larger universe. And I've got the urban fantasy. So there's 5 genres at least that I've written in, and one of them will take off, and fingers crossed, take off. And that's what I will, because I don't know what I do best. And only really the readers and the editors and the publishers will tell me what I do best.
Well, so will your fans, hopefully.
Yeah, that's what I mean, the readers.
Yeah,
the fans. Yes, I could write another rom-com, but the problem is I'm putting so much of myself into this one is the next one would almost be superficial, because I can only put. I'm putting everything into this one.
Yeah,
it's like writing your autobiography. Someone says, well, yeah, you're dying of cancer. We'll give you 3 months to put out an autobiography. You'll be dead at 60, so, that'll cover your life. And then they go, by the way, we found this pill, and it's going to work, and try it, and 3 weeks later you're cured, and now you're no longer going to be dead at 60, and you'll live to 100, so you've got to do another book about 40 years, but people want, well, what about that first 60 years? So, well, I've already written that. So you've thinned out your material for 60. So now you got to just do part 2.
Well, there's 2 ways to go with that. One, that means somewhere down the road you will date again, and then you can all right.
Oh yeah.
All right, somewhere down the road. Number 2, right? You're putting the stories in bits and pieces here, but what you can also do is take a story and expand it. Right, and it wouldn't be necessarily fluffy either, because obviously some stories are anecdotes, but some stories are like again, you're in a relationship for 13 years. Something tells me that would be a bigger, more in-depth story.
It's in this one. It's actually the other half. Well, some of it is.
Yeah, I like I said,
I'm using elements of it. I will never actually write that story.
No. But
actually, I won't write any of the full stories, simply because they're not just my story to tell.
Well, no, absolutely not. But
and that's the thing, is that I've talked to some of the ladies whose stories I have told in this in brief, and they think it's cute, because that's all I've done is sum it up. But I'm not telling. But yeah, none of the big stories. I don't want anybody laughing at any of the people in my life. I want them, if they're going to laugh at somebody in the story, laugh at me.
Yeah, right.
That's fine. They can laugh with them, but like Waking Anastasia, I wrote the mother character in that. Was a very strong, willful, sometimes irritating character, and I based her on my own mother. But my relationship with my mother in the 80s and early 90s. My mother and I have a totally different relationship now. Mm-hmm. And she and I have talked about it, and I've apologized, and she's apologized because she sees what her part of all of those discussions was. But I will not do that again to somebody, because there's always somebody that's going to say, oh, that's about you, and they're going to make snide remarks, and some other bully's going to come along. I won't make them easily identifiable. I will take snippets. Like
absolutely.
The villain in my rom-com, an ex-girlfriend, is based on a number of situations and women, and opens describing a time I proposed marriage to a girlfriend, and then morphs into a totally different relationship. And that's what that young lady will be able to look at that now, and she'll go, oh, that was me. But she won't look at any of the rest of it and recognize herself, because it's not her.
Yeah.
But she'll go, oh yeah, I know what that's about.
I do that too, like in my novel, my sci-fi novel, right? The villain is somewhat loosely based off Adam Dries.
Okay.
He knows
the
already.
Villain. You've got the villain after Adam. Okay.
Yeah, because the story I have there is Adam wore the steampunk uniform thing at his convention. I looked at it, it's like, he almost looks like an evil wizard. He almost so thought was in my head.
Right.
Then he posted a Twitter about Mr. Biggersworth, the cat. I'm like, okay, he is a villain. He really, really is a villain, right? So I asked him if I could lose it basically on him. Now, it's not completely based on him at all, but I mean, just what if Adam used his powers to be an evil mob enforcer? What would he be like, right? But also, I mean, I use other little less obvious snippets, right? There's elements of different people in my life in those stories, and they always will be there. There are pieces of my dad, there are pieces of my mom, there are pieces of like my friends. They're always there. The next book will have different friends, different elements, different things, right? I find like I'm only 37. I'm the youngin here in this room, right? And I have that much depth and tapestry at 37.
Exactly.
I mean, you'll have it too, and whether or not you become the rom-com king. What I secretly hope with you is you hit it big, not just in one genre but in two. Because if you hit it, because I do feel. I don't ever want to get settled with the syndrome of Terry Brooks. Hey, Shannara is amazing. Keep writing that.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, the money, though, that comes in from that and the film options.
No.
But you're right. Being pigeonholed, it's just as it is with being an actor.
Yeah. Because once you're... I don't want you to pitch... Like...
I'm not worried about pigeonhole because I already have a couple of pen names and I can switch and I'm not too worried. I'm going to write and people are going to buy or not buy and I'm not going to worry about it. And that's the wonderful thing about having an agent is because my job now is to write the best stories I can. Her job, which I was thinking she was my boss, and she says, no, you're the one paying me. And I'm going, huh? Oh, yes, I do, a percentage. So, but she tells me what she needs. I give that to her. She takes it. She runs with it.
Yep.
And when and I'm not saying if she sells, I'm saying when, because I have complete confidence in her ability to make if my writing's not sellable, Naomi will make it sellable. But she also sees the gems in there that are what is going to take them, make them leap forward.
Yeah.
And so that's, and that I don't have to worry as much about. That is so draining I have to market this and I have to try to get that. And she tells me what the market's going to bear. When she sells my sci-fi novel, I've already told her there's sequel potential. Series potential. She will probably guide me and say, this is what they're looking for. Can you take these characters in that direction? You've already done this with them. Can you do that with them? And because she sees the industry bigger, she knows an agent is 2, 3, 4 years ahead of what we actually see on the shelves because she knows what she just sold to Tor. She knows what Tor is buying now for the shelves in 2 and 3 years.
Absolutely. And
so that's an ongoing thing. So my goal is and that was one thing I tried to prove with my 8-week novel for the first draft, is that I can write with some speed. The rom-com is not being written with the speed I would like, but as I get over this hump right now with it, it'll kick into high gear and I'll be done the first draft.
Some things you're more comfortable with than others too.
Well, some things are easier to write too. Like writing a thriller, or even a murder mystery, but a thriller specifically has a different energy to it.
Yeah.
Yes, your characters have to have some depth. They don't have to have as much navel gazing as they do in a rom-com. But you can you can put them in a speeding car and have it racing with a train and a motorcycle and a jet down the highway, and you could spend 30 pages describing all the obstacles along the way because it's a dynamic scene.
And it's
but if you could do 30 pages with all the obstacles in a rom-com, but those obstacles are going to be little day-to-day things that I'm out of milk, or the milk's gone bad, or the kitten is sick, or I lost my keys for the store, I can't open up today, what am I going to do? But you got to make sure you don't repeat those. In a thriller, you can go around 16 cars in a row, And, you can change little things about this. Well, yeah, the AMC pacer, I didn't really quite as go around it as much as I went through it, or whatever it may be. It's harder to do the human details than it is to do the environmental details.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why. But then again, my Cozy Mystery was a combination of the two. It had some plot, some crime-driven plot, but it was also about the emotional growth of the character. And because I knew where I wanted him to go specifically, and I made the stakes really big with him. The stakes aren't as big with the character in the rom-com. But when I go back to the second draft, I will increase some of the stakes.
Oh, absolutely. You had that's what second draft's for. You add layers and nuances.
Exactly. As you're Finding Forrester, Sean Connery, you write your first draft with your heart and your second draft with your head.
Yeah.
And that's a bad Sean Connery impression. I usually do much better, but
it's okay.
But it's so true. And so many writers, beginning writers, don't get it. And actually, some of them aren't beginning; they're just immature. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean they have not matured as writers. They get stuck writing the same piece. And they, it's okay. I've got to get that right. And if I don't get that right, I have to get that right. And if I don't, but I have to do. And I go back and I'll edit that, and then I write. It doesn't matter if your first draft is allowed to be shit. It's not just allowed to be shit. It should be shit.
Yes.
Because you should have sat down and just written that baby straight through, and then you're going to have to go back and fix it. People like Robert J. Sawyer, Stephen King. I'm trying to think of authors who actually write their own works. I was going to say one that doesn't. He now farms it out. Dan Brown. They plot, they get it organized, but they've done it so often that they don't have to go back and nitpick because they're already good writers. They're doing the technical stuff great. Now they just have to work their technical knowledge into their story. And if they've plotted it out, which many do, then they will roll ahead and do a first draft faster and cleaner than the rest of us will. It's those that insist on. It's kind of like somebody trying to cut the lawn, that the grass is too long, and they can't stand having the grass cut because they're not bag. It's not. There's no bag on the back, so they're going 5 feet and raking, cutting 5 feet and raking, and they're making little piles as they go along. That's how some people write, and that's destructive or toxic to your writing. Mm-hmm. And if somebody can succeed doing that, lovely, wonderful, rock and roll, go for it. Mm-hmm. But your first draft, and that's the hardest thing for me, is to write the first draft and not worry about it if it's crap.
Yeah, actually, so for me, I've been mentioning in this couple of podcasts, my first kindergarten assignment was you take a marble,
right? You
dip it in paint,
right.
You roll it on the box, create art.
Right.
Thing is, it's completely random, it's completely chaos, but it's okay. It doesn't have to be fancy the first time to be beautiful, right? So I have a Race Inside Star novel. I write it in spurts.
Right.
But when I write no less than 5 pages. But right. I write as many as 20 at a time.
Right.
I know it's shit. Right? Because it's not. Right now I'm just throwing as many ideas into the wall as I can.
Right.
I know where the general story goes.
Yep.
But I'm just like, let's just throw everything in. And then the next draft I'm going to sift it through. It's like this works. Yeah. Right? I hadn't written a novel like this way before, but I thought, why not? And I've had a ton of fun. I've introduced things I never thought I would. Some of it I think is going to stick, right?
Good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's amazing how much you can take out of a book.
Yeah.
My sci-fi novel, it was 150,000 words first draft. Actually, finished draft, and then I was told it was too long, and could I break it into a 3-parter? Which is what took me 20 more years to get back at and do. But it was, and again, my brain is completely farting today. But yeah, I completely lost my train of thought there.
Okay. The importance of seeing things through to the end.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's well. There's the reason I stumbled over that thought was because there's a book title I want to tell you about. If you haven't already read it, it's called "Take Off Your Pants," and the author is Libby Hawker.
Yeah.
And it's all about plotting for people who are pantsers. And for your listeners, that is people who write by the seat of their pants. They don't do a plot. They might know how the story ends, or they might not. They'll create a character. They'll create a situation. They'll know somewhere along, okay, I'm setting it in Seattle, and I want it to be a thriller, medical thriller, and he's a doctor. And they might only have that much when they start, or they might have more. But what Libby's book is about is for people who write like that, or maybe they know the whole outline, but they haven't plotted it out. And Libby's book is about how you can write faster if you do some plotting. And she changed how I write. Just as one thin book. And it's wonderful because she's broken it down by the scenes and what you need in each scene and how your villain. One thing I thought was wonderful, which I'd never heard before, is that your villain and your hero must want the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not specifically they want the same girl, or they want the same boy, or they want the same corporation. But if you can't line the two of them up, then you have the wrong goal. You have the wrong what they want. So what they both might want is to live their lives in peace. So the villain is trying to kill anybody he's ever known, and the good guy is trying to solve the one last case so he can retire. Two totally different goals, but at the same time, they both want to live in peace. And when you can narrow it down like that, then you can start to define your scenes better. And then your scenes, once you figure that out, even if you don't plot it all out on paper, once you start thinking that way, you can look at a story and go, oh, okay, yes, this, all right, I need that. And it starts to become subconscious or automatic.
Well,
reflexive, whatever word you want.
It's funny because
instinct actually is what I'm.
Because my main character in my race to star is Jill, and her opponent's a guy named Clayton.
Right.
He's won every race. He wants to win this one.
Right.
She needs to win this race.
Right.
Conflict. Very simple. A very simple one.
Exactly. But why do they want to win?
Yeah. Well, for Clayton, because he wants the riches that comes with it.
Right.
For Jill, same thing, but for different reasons.
He wants to be rich. She wants to solve a problem she's got.
Yeah. Yes.
He doesn't have his problem is he doesn't have enough riches. Her problem is there's something else she needs the riches to solve.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's very straightforward, but...
Yes, exactly. Well, sometimes, though, the goal is less obvious.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the book, is that it helped me to look at the goals and then go, okay, and that helps because sometimes a character's motivations can be too two-dimensional. And by lining up the protagonist and the antagonist, you can create a dimension there that doesn't have to be obvious.
Yeah.
You, the writer, have to know all the answers.
Yes.
At least by the end of the writing. You can write and not know the answer. You don't have to know the end of your book until it happens. But the reader doesn't need to know all of the details, all of the world building. That's the thing too. But second drafts is you go in and take out the shit that you don't need.
Yeah, no, that's
you find other ways to put it in. Yeah, exactly. You don't need to say he spent 16 hours a day playing with his guitar, practicing his guitar. You can say that he needed a new set of strings because that was the third set this week.
Mm-hmm. Show not tell.
Exactly. Well, yes, exactly. But you're also talking about the passion comes through in another level.
Well, you
could show him beating the guitar with a hammer. That's still showing instead of telling.
But it's what you're showing though, right? Like when you talk about the strings there, you mentioned that's use of it. When he's hammering the guitar, that could be frustration at a song he's trying to write. That could be frustration of a situation. Maybe he's destructive.
Well, the playing of the chords. Do you play guitar?
Once upon a time.
Okay, yeah, because certain picking patterns make you want to beat your guitar with the hammer. From what I remember when I was playing much more. But yes, But again, it's when I started seeing things that way, And I believe that and I bought it as an ebook. I don't even know where I heard about it. I think it was probably in some recommended list from Writer's Digest. Like 10 books you should buy now about writing. The Cat Writes a Screenplay, I think it was.
Okay.
The Cat Writes a Novel. There were a couple of good ones. And I went and ordered them all off of Chapters. But I got this one as an ebook, read it, and going, I love this. I must. And I went and immediately ordered 2 copies and gave a copy away. And it's only like an $8 book.
Yeah.
And it works in any genre. But it adds a depth and a speed to your writing. She can write a novel, finished drafts, in 4 weeks or less, and that's ready to send to the publisher. And she's been challenged to do that, and she can write even faster than that. Well, look at the 3-day novel contest that we just had.
Yeah.
Have you ever entered that one?
No.
That it makes NaNoWriMo look like a stroll in the park.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yes, it would.
I did 39,000 words in 3 days when I entered the competition on a manual typewriter.
Awesome.
And I still have that, and that novella will eventually be... I'll eventually go back and clean it up because it was so much fun to write. It's about the mentally ill. The characters are... The one character walks out of a mental asylum to solve a crime. And it's a very brutal crime, which really freaked me out because there's a scene in that. And when I wrote this book, 88 maybe, it was the year before, not long before, Silence of the Lambs came out.
Ah.
And there's a scene in my book. My story is called what's it called? A Stable Full of Loons. Silence of the Lambs.
Oh my God.
So the title automatically, oh my God. And in Silence of the Lambs, I've not read the book, only seen the movie, there's a scene where he removes the face of a guard.
Yeah.
And ends up putting that on. I have a police officer when he's being kept in that space. The crime that my character's trying to solve involves the murder of a security guard in a museum whose face has been removed.
Ah.
But it's hidden behind a mirror. His other organs have been, his heart is put in behind a shield and blah, blah, blah. But I watched Silence of the Lambs, which was considered to be one of, it's R-rated, it's a sick story. And I'm watching it going, oh my God, I'm broken. From the title down to that scene, I'm writing sick shit. So I will eventually, even though I wrote it for 2 specific actors to play in it. Kevin Peter Hall, who you won't know until I tell you who he's played, and John Candy, who you will.
Yes.
And John Candy is the hero, except in my story, I've made him an albino with a white beard and bald head. And Candy would have been great in the role. Kevin Peter Hall was Harry and the Hendersons.
Okay, yes.
He played Harry.
Oh, okay.
He was also the first Predator. He was also...
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes, he was also in Night Court.
Yeah.
And a bunch of people escaped from a mental asylum, and he was playing one of the patients. And Kevin was almost 7 feet tall. And I thought that'd be perfect. And so it's the 2 characters who one leaves the asylum first and the other one follows him. And they're buddies.
Oh, okay.
But they don't catch up to each other until later on. But unfortunately, Kevin died of an illness, and John, died of a heart attack. So, but someday I will finish that story. But
it sounds like you have fun.
But it was a 3-day novel contest, and that's all about plotting and just powering through it. But,
fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask one last question. I think we're gonna wrap this interview up.
Okay.
You seem a lot happier than when I last saw you. I'm talking like last time I came here to do that podcast.
I'm trying to think of how long ago that was.
3 years. Oh no, 2 years. 2 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yes. Oh, I definitely am. And getting an agent was a big part of that. Bringing out a new book was part of that. The Sisterhood of the Black Dragonfly, I self-published because I wanted something to come out and it's a story close to my heart that I know will not take the world by storm, but I love the story, so I wanted it out there, and I will kick up the marketing a few notches before Christmas. The other stuff has a lot to do with the Tony Robbins stuff, not positive thinking, but the getting your shit together. Yeah. As well as the TED Talks that I did go to, and just looking at life differently and realizing, okay, what's really important, what's unimportant, and just moving forward to it and having fun.
It's amazing how little is actually important, isn't it?
It is, and you need to figure it out and how the rest of it fits.
Yes.
It's not just figuring out that, your kids are important, or in my case, my pets are important, but also narrowing it down to how does the rest of that fit? Like, it's great if your kids are important, but if your job doesn't fit with that, or your spouse or ex-spouse doesn't fit with that, then you're still going to have
problems.
Exactly, and it's, but yeah, no, and also the stuff that I have not resolved in my life, I have learned how to look at that in a way that it doesn't carry the same weight.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Which is very
Plus,
good.
fitness level. I have a friend who's kicked my ass, figuratively, because she lives in another province, to get doing more. So I'm exercising slowly. I've got 15 minutes on the elliptical on a daily basis.
That's better than nothing.
It is.
Yeah.
It's and it just it's all about it's all about attitude, but that's easy to say. I'm lucky. I am unlike most people you will meet, other than maybe yourself. Is that I have a home, I have a job, I have all the education I need, so I'm not struggling to get that. It's I have a hobby, the writing, which will maybe someday take off. Fingers crossed. And that I'm having fun with. And I've got a new hobby that I'm going to be looking at, glass etching.
Okay.
I was looking at the tools for that today. It's something I've wanted to do. But do stuff like custom whiskey glass designs.
Oh, lovely.
With unicorns and stuff like that.
I'm never going to live that down the rest of my life.
No, you're not. Yeah. But that's and finding those joys and not worrying so much about the stuff I can't control. It's romance, love, whatever. I'm coming up on 60. I'm not saying I've given up on love. I'm just not sweating it. It is what it is. It is what it isn't. I have wonderful people in my life, male friends, female friends. I have, there is love in my life, from a distance.
Yeah.
And that's enough at this point, because I need. Yeah, it's the writing. That's really what it is I'm writing stories that I enjoy being a part of the process. I love my characters, not just the ones that are based on me or ex-girlfriends. But I'm having fun with that. Oh, and my audiobook just came out.
High five.
And it's weird because I cannot listen to it. I'm so tired of hearing my own voice. It's like
I have 300 episodes of a podcast. Trust me on this.
So that's a nice step forward. And I've also stopped looking at my writing as this is going to make me famous. This is going to make me millions. I'm going to take the world by storm. I did that at 30. I did that at 20. I did that at 30. I did that at 40. I did that at 50 when I finally started taking novel writing seriously. No, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just simply going to do the best I can, and the universe, put whatever label on it you want. If you want to say God, the universe, Jesus, Buddha,
whatever.
Mahatma Fred, I don't know. Sorry, that was a character I created.
That's okay. That's awesome. That's awesome.
But whatever it is, that's exactly I had to change my attitude, and my attitude is better because I chose to change it. Now, if you'd come here last weekend, it wouldn't necessarily have been as good, simply because I had a new work schedule, and having done it for a week, I'm relaxed. I'm fine. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And so that shit still comes up on a daily basis. You sweat about it, but Yeah, you can't control what happens to you. You can only control how you react.
Yeah.
And I'm now trying to react in a way that keeps me going longer.
Fair enough. All right, so let's before we wrap this up. Talk about your audiobook since it just came out.
Okay.
And then how people can find you.
Okay, the audiobook is for Waking Anastasia, the story of a young man who awakens the ghost of Anastasia Romanova. Anastasia Romanoff, for those of you. And he awakens her ghost in Victoria, the same novel we talked about last time. Now an audiobook through Taiki Books, my publisher. It is available on all of the platforms. It's coming. It's not available yet on audiobook.
Okay.
But it's on Audible. Sorry, on Audible. But it's coming. Their process just takes a little longer. So it is out there. You can find me on timreynolds.ca or tgmreynolds.com. My blog is thetaooftim.com, and I'm doing much more blogging recently. So it's lots of fun. That's how you can find me. At TGMReynolds for Twitter. I don't write or read on that, but you can
say hi.
You can friend me, exactly. And and you can hear me on Just Joshing at least twice now.
Yes. And that was my conversation with Tim Reynolds. Definitely check out Sisterhood of the Dragonfly. Tim, like I said, man, I miss you. You're a good dude. And definitely, there's a lot more to this conversation, ladies and gentlemen. We had a huge chunk of it. Maybe I'll do a lost episode sometime because Tim's an amazing guy. But I thought this would be a good taste of who he is and where he's up to now. And Tim, good luck with everything you're doing. I know you're going to have an amazing writing career that's just getting started. It's going to be amazing. You're with the right people, and they believe in you. I believe in you, and I know others do too. So on that note, this is the last episode I'm recording in this place. To put this in perspective, this was a very unexpected move. I didn't really find out about this except over a text message while I was on vacation. So I basically had to scramble when I came back here. It worked out really quickly, like 3 hours. I had a place and a room to stay in. I've been very deliberate with BC, but I'd be lying to you if I didn't have some worries about what happened to me last time, coming back this time. And honestly, having this happen the way it did kind of told me that it is going to work out a little differently. That doesn't mean that there isn't going to be bumps and bruises in the road. There always is. That's not how this works. But this time, unlike last time, hey, who knows what will happen tomorrow? But this time, unlike last time, I feel is kind of like one of those situations where I'm ready. I'm almost ready to do what needs to be done. I'm free to pursue what I need to pursue. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. Really, really excited about the possibilities. And I realized that going through this, it's not going to end up the same way. I don't know how it's going to end up, but it's not going to end up the same way. And that's the best. So I want to say this real quick to my previous roommate, Daniel Rusher. Thank you very much for allowing me to come to Vancouver. I appreciate the opportunity you gave me. I wish you nothing but the best. To everyone else, that'll do it for this episode's Joshing. If you want to support the podcast, you can do so a number of different ways. You can subscribe to the podcast. I'm on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podomac, and most other players. Subscribe, share, let people know I'm out there. That'd be great. I have a merchandise, jpenteloresco.redbubble.com. You can buy a t-shirt, mug, whatever the case may be. That would be amazing. My books, The Watcher, Storm Dancer, Wandering God, courtesy of MirrorWorldPublishing.com. Check them out. Buy some books. Read them. Share them. Review them. If you don't like them, don't tell anybody. I have comicfirstcomics.com. My Facebook page is Joshua Penteloresco, author, podcaster. My Twitter, Instagram is at jpenteloresco. My YouTube channel is Joshua Penteloresco. All my past episodes are archived there. But whatever you do, whatever you say, Thanks for listening, everybody. Stay inspired, do your thing, and just roll with the punches when they come your way. All right, guys. Have a good one.
Josh, shush.